A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Jesus came down with the 12 and stood on a stretch of level ground with a great crowd of his disciples and a large number of the people from all Judea and Jerusalem and the coastal regions of Tyre and Sidon. And raising his eyes towards his disciples, he said, "Blessed are you who are poor, for the kingdom of God is yours. Blessed are you who are now hungry, for you will be satisfied. Blessed are you who are now weeping, for you will laugh. Blessed are you when people hate you, and when they exclude and insult you, and denounce your name as evil on account of the Son of Man. Rejoice and leap for joy on that day. Behold, your reward will be great in heaven. For their ancestors treated the prophets in the same way. But woe to you who are rich, for you have received your consolation. Woe to you who are filled now, for you will be hungry. Woe to you who laugh now, for you will grieve and weep. And woe to you when all speak well of you, for their ancestors treated the false prophets in this way." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
So today, Jesus talks about the four blessings and the four woes. And it's a reversal of what we think a blessing is in the world. He speaks about, if you're poor, the kingdom of God is yours. He's not speaking about an actual physical poverty. He's speaking more about a spiritual poverty. When we have that hunger for something outside of this world, outside of this life. He says, blessed who are hungry, not just a physical hunger, because we know it's not talking about a physical hunger, because he says your reward in heaven will be great. Not that your reward is that you'll be praised here, or you'll be fed here with earthly food, or you be given riches if you believe and follow my gospel. But it's a heavenly reward. So blessed are you who are hungry, so you shall be satisfied with spiritual things. Blessed are you who are now weeping, for you will laugh. Blessed are you when people hate you, when they exclude and insult you and renounce your name as evil on account of the Son of Man. All these things, all these different blessings, so-called blessings, not only are they in direct contradiction of what the world thinks is a blessing, but they all have one thing in common. They all have one common effect, and that is to oppress the recipient. All these things bring oppression. Now, why is oppression something good? Well, there's a law of physics that says whatever is oppressed externally, the natural law is it moves towards its center. So when we are oppressed by hunger and poverty and all the different woes of the world, they actually become blessings because that helps move us to the center. St. Augustine said, "Late have I loved you. You were within me, but I was not with you. And in my deformity, I searched for you outside of myself and chased after the beauties that you made. But these things that were beautiful would have no beauty at all if they were not in you." It says you flashed and shone, and you dispelled my blindness. You shouted and called, and you dispersed my deafness. You touched me, and I burnt for your peace. God is within. The kingdom of God is within us. And prayer, the goal of prayer, and the goal of everything that God puts us through in this life is to move us towards that kingdom of God that's within us. So the four woes have an opposite effect. Also, C.S. Lewis, he said that God whispers to us in our pleasures. He speaks to us in our conscience, but he shouts to us in our pain. Pain is God's megaphone to rouse a deaf world. So all these things from a spiritual effect are actually good. And this is what Jesus is talking about. Now, the four woes, actually sometimes called the four curses of being wealthy, of being satisfied. Jesus isn't talking just about material wealth. He's not. This isn't a war on social classes where we can say, oh yeah, the rich, they're going to get it. And that makes me laugh that the rich are going to be punished. Wait a minute. Woe unto those who laugh. Oh, there must be something deeper, right? You can be wealthy and be less attached to someone that's poor. Remember one time I was in India, in a marketplace, and in India they have a renounced order of mendicants. They belong to the cult of Shiva, and they wear a loincloth. They never cut their hair. Their hair is all matted and curled up on the top of their head. If they let it down, it would fall all the way to the ground. And they wear clay markings, 3 clay markings, and they only wear the loincloth. They give up everything in the world, and they smear their body with ashes, not only ashes, but ashes from the crematorium. And so this Shivite was walking through the marketplace, and they carry a trident, scary-looking trident, because Shiva carries a trident. And on the trident, he had a skull, a human skull, to signify the futility of enjoyment in this world, how temporal it is. And also hanging on a trident, he had a transistor radio. Almost gave up everything in the world except that transistor radio. So you can be poor and be over-attached to someone that's wealthy. So these four woes, though, the reason they're called woes, being rich, satisfied, laughing, being praised by others, they can cause us to move away from the interior life and externalize into the world. They can cause us to externalize and become overly focused on the things of the world because of the pleasure we are receiving. You know, when I was many years ago, before I came back to the church, I was a Hindu evangelical preacher, and one of the favorite verses from the Hindu Bible, it's called the Bhagavad-Gita, the Song of God, was Ishwaroham hung bogi siddhoham balavan sukhi. And it describes the mentality that draws people away from God. It says that I am the controller, I'm the enjoyer, and I'm perfect, and I'm powerful, and I'm happy outside of God. This draws us away. This causes us to hide ourselves in the garden of the world. That mentality, just like the Garden of Eden. And it's only during, like in the Genesis book of the Garden of Eden, it explains that God came to Adam and Eve. They were hiding in the garden. He came to them in the still of the day. In the still of the day, when darkness was descending. God comes to us at the time of our life when darkness is surrounding us. And we become still. And then God asks, where are you? And at that point, we can hear his voice and we can reflect. We can examine our lives. You know, St. John of the Cross, he talked about detachment from the world. And he said this disordered desires can deprive us of God's Spirit. They can darken and weaken the powers of the soul. And he gave an interesting example about the book in the Old Testament, the typology of Samson, who was blinded by concupiscence, by desires of his flesh. He was blinded, and he had to push the wheel around over and over again, doing the same things over and over again. And he talked about how sin will do that. It will blind us, and we end up repeating the same habits like a record that is skipping. And John also quotes from the book of Jeremiah that where God says, they have forsaken me, the fountain of living waters. And they've dug cisterns, broken cisterns that can hold no water. So throughout our lives, God teaches us to be detached from the things in the world. When oppression causes us to go within to be with God, we begin to develop a real profound relationship with God. St. Louis de Montfort said that if the soul does not suffer, it is timid and tame. And suffering causes the soul to set on fire, like fire it inflames them. He said, one who suffered not in ignorance is bound. Only through pain's hard lot is holy wisdom found. Only through pain's hard lot is holy wisdom found. So you can understand what Jesus is telling us. All this suffering in this world that we experience is to get us to heaven. You know, when oppression causes us to go within to be with God, our prayer life deepens. And we learn that prayers are not simply words. Like Catherine of Siena said, that prayer is not just a multitude of words. Prayer is an ardent desire of the heart. Perfect prayer is an ardent desire of the heart. So whatever God puts us through that's oppressing us, his goal is to develop a relationship with us, to stop hiding ourselves in the garden and to turn to him when he says, where are you? It's to lead us to union with God, to perfect and eternal happiness. Oppression can help us to develop that ardent desire of the heart. Oppression helps us understand that God is within. Some of the most painful times of my life are the times when I felt the most profound peace from God. The peace that only God could give. The peace that the world could not give in that situation. You know, Clare of Assisi talked about prayer. They would lock themselves in a convent to impose oppression on themselves. Why? Because they knew it drew them into a closer relationship with God through prayer. You know, Clare of Assisi said, place your mind before the mirror of eternity. Place your soul in the brilliance of glory. Through prayer, through contemplation. She said, so that you too will feel what his friends feel when they taste the hidden sweetness. When they taste that hidden sweetness. So oppression is meant to draw us closer to God so we can taste that hidden sweetness that he has prepared for us. That he has reserved for those who love him. Oppression can be a great blessing in disguise. It can lead us to a true and profound peace, a peace that the world can never give us, so that throughout our lives we understand that God is teaching us to be detached from the world. He's not going to take us to heaven against our will. When we leave this body, our spiritual body, intellect, memory, and will, those are what go with us. We can will ourselves into not going to heaven. He's not going to take us kicking and screaming to heaven. I believe that a large part of purgatory is just learning to detach ourselves from this world. So today, when we receive Jesus in Holy Communion, let's ask him for the grace to embrace whatever suffering he sends us that comes our way, so that when we receive blessings, we don't feel oppressed, We can actually embrace Jesus, and our love for him will make all things easier. And with little Therese of the little flower who said, everything is grace because everything is the direct effect of our Father's love for us. Difficulties, contradictions, humiliations, and all of the soul's miseries, she said. Whatever the character of life be, or its unexpected events, to the heart that loves, all is well. To the heart that loves, all is well.